And for those who believe that in pre-Hispanic times everything here was peace, love, and harmony, today we talk about the Saltpeter War, the pre-Hispanic war caused by salt. Among pre-Hispanic cultures, small and large-scale military conflicts were common. Civilizations rose, fought each other, dominated one another, and some even eventually disappeared. An example of these conflicts occurred just a few decades before the Spanish arrived on the continent, in the central western region of what is now Mexico. Two groups of settlers there, gradually expanding their territories, on one side, the Mexica, and on the other, the Purépechas. As they conquered others, these borders began to convert until they became neighbors, being the most dominant groups of the time. Military conflicts was inevitable. Thus, the Mexica Tlatoani Axayacatl invade Purépecha territory. It's important to note that both armies consist not only of Mexica and Purépechas, but also of various smaller allied and tributary groups. However, the ultimate outcome of this war was the defeat of the Mexica, who had to retreat to their city. This, however, is not a battle we'll discuss in this video. It is thought one of the precedents to the Saltpeter War. As we mentioned it, the military expansion of these two groups was evident. In the case of the Purépecha, they began to dominate groups in the western part of the country, in areas corresponding to the states of Jalisco, Michoacán, Colima, and Guanajuato. In many of these places, due to the terrain's characteristic and the abundances of lagoons, as seen on the map, the land produced many saline elements, now known as salt flats. Many of them were created by the drying of lakes during drought seasons. In these areas, saline crust could easily be found. Some of these products were referred to by Fray Bernardino de Sahagún, who mentioned it that they called it Tequixquitlali, meaning land where saltpeter forms. These saline products and their derivatives were used for many purposes: seasoning food, cooking beans, making esquites, processing nixtamal, preparing tamales and tortillas, acting as leavening agents, feeding animals, refining metals, creating ceramics, as medicinal remedies, and much more. Those saline products were highly valuable for any culture. Before the war with the Mexica, the Purépecha had already begun to dominate various territories in these regions. His ruler, Tzintzin Pandacuare, emboldened by his victory over the Mexica, decided to subjugate more western territories. Many of these areas paid tribute in the form of saltpeter, with a frequency depending on the region. Some paid daily, others every 20 days or 80 days. However, if the Purépecha were the Waterloo of the Mexica, they in turn faced insurmountable resistance for several western groups. There are many uncertainties about this conflict, and the records were obviously writing during the Spanish rule, sometimes decades or over 100 years after the events occurred. Some characters and details of this war are even thought to be fabricated. For instance, this region, like what is often thought as a desolate north, was far from the city during all that time, hosting many diverse groups. This explains the strong resistance faced by the rulers of Tzintzuntzan. For a long time, it was incorrectly believed that all the native groups in the area form a sort of confederation similar to the Tlaxcaltecs. Even assigning them the name Chimalhuacan Confederation. This supposed confederation was said to include major lordships like Colima, Tonalamatl, Jalisco, Aztlán, and smaller ones. However, the truth is that such a Chimalhuacan confederation never exists. The Spanish referred to these groups more broadly as the land of the Chichimex gods. Modern states in Mexico like Michoacán, Jalisco, and Colima each have their local heroes who, according to tradition, fought against the Purépechas. One prominent yet debating figure is King Tonalamatl, or Tzome. Some believe this wasn't his actual name, suggesting instead that he ruled the lordship of Colima. And in the absence of his real name, he was simply called after the territory. Others argue that he ruled the Tecos, Colimas, or Colimecas inhabiting in Colima lordship. Whether or not his figure truly exists, he gave his name to the modern saint of Colima. A statue of him stands at the entrance to the state capital, and a commemorative coin featuring him was recently issued. The war, later called Saltpeter War, is believed to have lived from approximately 1480 to 1510. Its goal for Purépechas was to reach the sea and dominate the entire region. As hostiles excelled many areas such as Acualco, Sayula, or Zampotlan fell. As in any war, some groups submit, while others sought alliances with neighboring lordships to resist. One of the most popular accounts suggests that despite their differences, Tonalamatl managed to unite several lordships in the region, such as Jalisco, Aztlán, Colima, Tonala, Coinan, and Etzatlán. In many parts of present-day Jalisco, Colima, and Michoacán, these united groups waged guerrilla fought against the Purépechas for years. Like all wars, territories were conquered and later lost. During this protracted 30-year conflict, the instigator, Casonsi Tzinsipandacuare, did not live to see the end, dying in 1486 and being succeeded by Suanga. Ultimately, the Purépechas had to withdraw from the region, losing much territory as the western groups, including Sayula, Zapotlan, Amula, and Mazamitl. Among others, along with these territories, they also lost access to the saline resources abundant in these areas. After the war ended, some accounts claim King Tonalamatl survived and fought against the Spanish when they arrived in the region, even defeating them several times before ultimately dying in battle. Just as the Purépechas had defeated and limited the Mexicas' ambitions, they too were checked by these western groups. Thus, their borders were essentially as the Spanish found them upon their arrival. In summary, this was a war provoked by salt, the so-called Saltpeter War.